I heard that someone is nipping at your ankles, but maybe that's their rightful place beneath your feet. And not because you're elitist in any way, or you believe yourself to be above anyone in any way, but because it's the position that they've chosen. And we're going to get into this message a little bit today and unpack it. But before we do so, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Solarah. I am a seer. I am a code keeper. I am a timeline reinstator. I am a breaker of the illusions that don't serve you, but I am a supporter in your delulu. No, I am a supporter of the delulu when it brings you solulus, right? When it brings you the solution that your soul needs. And oftentimes that so-called delusion is actually you just tapping into your higher frequential truth. So I'm all on board to helping you break past every glass ceiling, every barrier, everything that tried to keep you out of what it is you deserve, your birthright, and who you have a right to be in your power on the earth planes. I am a seeker of justice, and I am a liberator of those who have been wrongfully blinded, invisibly, and through spiritual fuckery. Okay, that's who I am. And as I said the other day, my beloved calls me a spiritual data scientist. So, make of that what you may. You are welcome in these parts if you are an ally in the work that I do, which is here to break the fucking false matrix spells that have been designed to limit us and to keep us out of our truth and out of our power, and to keep the earth in this gridlock where we can't all flourish. And them timelines are over. And I'm here to help bring about that shift and that change with all of you. Okay, so let's get into the message. This one's going to be pretty quick today. So I don't know if we'll get into cards also. I hope that we will. But I do have to rush off to an appointment. So I'm trying to... I wanted to get this message out because it came through for me 2 days ago, and then I have another message that's also come through that I would like to record today too. So I'm just trying to work with the schedule I have right now to enable me to do that. So the message, okay? So I was walking the other day. I think it must have been on Thursday evening. I was taking a walk, and all of a sudden I felt this energy like trying to hold my ankles. It was very subtle. I'm a very sensitive being. I pick up on the subtlest of shifts, but I could feel something almost trying to like catch my ankles, hold my ankles, and I could feel the pull of it, but I also knew that whatever was trying to pull at my ankles wasn't actually succeeding in directing my path anymore. Okay, and that's an important message also, because for those of you who may have my other sensitive souls who have experienced that, I will say that in terms of spell work, this is something that these beings will do. I did a reading about that in Sagittarius season of 2023, so maybe November 2023, where I could literally feel somebody trying to bind a person's feet into a reality to get you to walk a path that doesn't belong to you. So for those of you who are new in these parts and aren't very familiar with my work or what I've been speaking about for, it's been like over 2 years at this point, I talk a lot about the destiny swapping agendas of the false matrix, right? And the destiny swapping, I know it's a big buzzword right now, right? And people tend to still have this idea that it's something that's very unique unto them, but it's actually a whole false matrix spell, because in order for the false matrix to thrive, it needed everyone living against their truth. which is why they programmed us all into distortion. So even those who were abusing, those who were utilizing energy work and spiritual malpractice, let's call it what it is, spiritual malpractice to advance themselves in the false matrix, and they appeared in this material realm to be on top and to be doing well, even they were living in realities that were not on par with who they are on a cosmological level. 1313 on my clock as I say that. I welcome my Divine Mother into this space. I love you so much. Okay, so as such, the false matrix was designed to assign everyone into roles, and you could become you could rise in the false matrix for as long as you participated in certain rituals, and oftentimes those rituals required that you become an abuser in some way, shape, or form, whether it was just always to what degree, right? So the higher up people tended to rise in the false matrix, the more abusive fuckery they had to do, and a lot of it was in secret, etc. But you should know that the entirety of the false matrix was built upon narcissistic abuse templates, where they were using everyone for supply, but they put certain beings in position of feeling like they were top dog in order to also get access to the masses, okay, to get access to that pool of energy that they needed. So I say all of that because in the midst of all of these destiny swapping shenanigans that happen on a collective level, and then when you're dealing with it on a more personal level, then when you zone in on the microcosm of the energy, then what a lot of you were dealing with were people who had opened you up to being targeted. Let's put it that way. Some of them completely unconsciously in their pursuit to rise in the false matrix, but at some point, especially those who are of greater status in the false matrix, they were very conscious and aware of what they were doing. Okay, so I say that because that binding your feet into another path that's not meant for you is just one possible layer of multiple spells and multiple energy work that they did to keep you confused, to keep you discombobulated, to keep you in realities and timelines that you shouldn't be in. Which is why, I do so many decrees, because the layering of spell work that we have been under, it's really quite immense. And every day, I feel like I'm discovering new nuances to all of it. I have the overall picture, but there are new nuances. There's even some stuff that was coming up that was so clear to me yesterday that I want to get this reading and the other one I have out of the way, because I really want to focus on that topic and to create a decree for that too, because it's a really key piece of information, I think, for many of you desiring to be visible again in the world, right? Be visible again in the world. So especially during Cancer season. Cancer is a resetting of your foundational grid. Your foundation, your cycles, the cycles you build can only be true to the foundation they're built upon. And in Cancer season, we get the opportunity to build a new foundation or to tweak the foundation we have in accordance with the timelines and cycles we've been building in order to create in higher accordance with who we really are. So back to the message, right? So nipping at your ankles, but maybe that's where they belong, beneath your feet. So it's not elitism. It's not you being, poo-pooing on anyone or thinking you're better or above. It's literally the position they've chosen. It's literally the position they've chosen because a lot of these beings who are in positions of prestige in the false matrix are there through, like I said before, energy work. They're there through spiritual malpractice. That's what I'm going to call it from here on out. They're there through spiritual malpractice, through breaking and bending universal laws that the fabric of the false matrix made it possible for them to do. Okay? So as such, these are beings who didn't want to do the soul work to accrue the rightful rewards that they would have gotten after graduating from those lessons. So instead of doing the soul work, they decided to tap into people who's on a soul level are very advanced, because their souls hold the wisdom that they have accrued oftentimes over, like in this plane, we call it time, so over lifetimes, but really time is a construct that doesn't exist all over the universe. But that's a whole other thing, because I'm still making sense of that shit too. But suffice to say, some of you are like primordial beings. Some of you hold the geometry and the architecture of that brought this version of the earth into place. And this isn't the first version of earth that has existed. And some of you, you go beyond that. You go even before that. And so your soul is very rich with universal wisdom, the universal wisdom that creates, the universal wisdom that prospers, the universal wisdom that manifests, the universal wisdom that pulls things ex nihilo. You hold those templates, you hold that remembrance literally in your cells, in your DNA. I talked about this a little in the New Moon in Cancer Tower Astrology Ascension report over on my other channel, Solarah Rises. But you are you have done the work to for your soul to prosper. Okay, and so there are other beings, lower consciousness beings, and please, don't get it twisted. Every single living thing has the opportunity to ascend and evolve and become what they want to become. There's no gatekeeping in evolution on a universal level. When things are done justly and in accordance with universal law, there is no gatekeeping, there is no elitism. The hierarchy that exists is frequential, based upon soul choice, for the purpose of keeping things secure, not for the purpose of, like they do in the false matrix, keeping people out and yada yada. It's not for those reasons. But these lower consciousness beings decided they didn't want to work their way and to prosper their own souls, and they figured that they could get access to certain experiences through siphoning. Okay, so the truth of the matter is, on a frequential level, they are beneath. They are beneath, and not because they're less than, but because they also chose that position of not trying to prosper their own soul, and they chose to try to do it through cheating and through thievery, which in and of itself puts them beneath that. Like, they put themselves in that position, right? There's only one way to rise, and pulling another down so you appear to be taller, it ain't it. It ain't it. That is deception and an illusion. But it's a deception and an illusion that allowed for the false matrix to thrive. Okay, so here's the truth. The truth is that this being who is nipping at your feet, and it could be a human, it could be an entity, it could be both, take it as it resonates. You made them feel small. You made them feel small, but that's not a you problem, that's a them problem. Because if they felt small in your presence, that was actually an invitation for them to rise. So you made them feel small, but that's not a you problem, and that's not a reason for you to shrink, but an invitation for them to rise. Now, a lot of you did the opposite. I know you did the opposite, because I used to do the same shit, because, I was groomed into being a people pleaser. Right? Oftentimes scapegoats are. I was groomed into being a professional people pleaser. And so I really thought for the longest time that when people were intimidated by me, and I wouldn't even call it intimidation at the time, because I felt I was made to feel so small that I didn't even think it was possible for people to be intimidated by me. So I just assumed, because this is how my psyche had been groomed, that when people were actually intimidated by me and they acted a certain way, they acted funny with me, I internalized it as them not liking me and there being a problem with me. And I internalized it as, I need to try harder, I need to be nicer, I need to be open, I need to be more likable, I need to be a fucking doormat for all intensive purposes, right? And what that was me unconsciously choosing to make myself smaller because someone else had a problem with me, and I was completely unaware of the wealth that I held, energetically speaking, that other people picked up on, and it made them feel some type of way. And because I didn't know who I was, and I'd been programmed into being very compliant, submissive, and people-pleasing, I just assumed I had to try harder. And in doing so, I consented to being smaller. I consented to groveling. I consented ultimately to nipping at their ankles. I consented to being beneath their feet. That's where I thought I belonged. That's the position I chose. Not consciously, but it is what it is. Now, when you make someone feel small, those are their feelings. Those are their feelings. Unless you're being an asshole, you're being a jerk, and you are trying to project something upon another person to make them feel small, which many people do also. That's also part of the false matrix fuckery, especially your destiny swappers and your handlers will do that to keep you under the thumb of control and to keep your energy field open. They will try to take a position of mastery over your energy by constantly trying to belittle you, devalue you, make you feel small, to cause you to shrink so they have access. That's very real. But if you're a being of integrity and you're just living in your frequential truth and you're embodying your power and you're choosing to live your life in that way, and you make other people small, that is not a reason for you to shrink back. That's a reason for you to root deeper into your true divine identity and net worth and to be yourself even more. Because then what you're ultimately doing is you are inviting the other person that feels small to rise. You are inviting them to do the shadow work as to why they feel inferior, because that's what it is. Why they feel inferior, why they feel insecure, why they feel threatened by your presence. And a lot of the time it has nothing to do with you. They just can't confront that part of themselves within themselves. So there's no more trying to accommodate other people's low self-worth by minimizing and devaluing yourself to make them feel better falsely. Because when you do that, you're actually not only doing a disservice to your own soul, you're doing a disservice to them too. Because that intimidation that they feel in your energy, like I said before, it's an invitation for them to rise, to evolve, to ascend into a part of themselves that you are mirroring back to them that is on a higher frequency. I'm going to say that again. You are giving them an invitation to rise higher into an aspect of themselves that you are mirroring back in a higher frequency. Meaning you're not giving them an invitation to be more like you. You're showing them a part of themselves that also exists in another timeline, in a higher frequential reality. So you're giving them an invitation to have access to more of what it is they say they want, or their soul must know they deserve. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be in their presence, because that's how energy works. You can't call in anything that isn't you. Whether it's you because that's who you are organically, or it's you because of your programming, or it's you because of what has been placed in your energy field wrongfully, it doesn't shift the energetic truth and the energetic law that everything that is called into your presence is there because it's a reflection either of who you are or what your energy field is holding. And it goes both ways. It goes both ways. So some of you get it mixed up because of the way you've been programmed against yourself, and you've been devalued purposely by those who are insecure or have felt threatened by you, and so therefore felt they had to minimize you and devalue you instead of rising up. You've been misprogrammed to believe that when people feel intimidated by you, that you're supposed to come down. But you're not supposed to come down, because oftentimes you're taking a position in their reality as a higher timeline. And what you're looking at when you look at them is another version of yourself. Maybe it's the version of yourself that you're living right now and you're living beneath your reality. It's possible. Maybe it's the version of yourself that you have risen above. But either way, there's a time where you embody that energy too. in some way, shape, or form. I'm not saying you expressed it in the way that they're expressing it, but you embodied it too. I hope that makes sense. So, and I'm not even talking about like the envy or the desire. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the literal frequency of like what's beneath the envy for them is actually doubt, is actually fear. And people respond to that in different ways, right? Some people get very envious and, you know, they try to harm other people. Some people get envious still and they do the work to within their shadow to figure out why it is that they want something that isn't theirs, or whether that envy is being incited because it is something that belongs to them. So when we're not afraid to go into the depths of our own soul and realize that all of these emotions, especially the emotions that we've been that have been tagged as being shameful, are actually just signposts to show us where our treasure and where our wealth is. When we're not afraid to claim these things and to find out what they're really showing us, that's when we begin to really unlock our power. And that's another thing that many people don't like about beings like you, right? People who live authentically and who do the shadow work are not afraid to own up to those parts of self that society and the world likes to shame others for and likes to shame themselves for. You're not afraid to admit to certain things. You're not afraid to notice when you're in a state of envy, when you're feeling jealous, when you're feeling these things that society has poo-pooed on. But our natural form of, it's a natural human emotion that is just a message. It's a message showing you that either you're out of alignment, somebody is putting you out of alignment. It's all to show you how to correct your own holographic imprint so that you are creating timelines that are a true reflection of who you are, instead of the mimicry and the persona that gets created through the many destiny swapping initiatives of the false matrix. Right? So a lot of the time, what I've noticed also is that people who are highly insecure, they hate it when people live their truth. They hate it when, for example, a woman, like I've seen this often, like women who, go out into the world and they're dressed to the nines, and people think that because they look so wonderful in their appearance that they must be really confident, which isn't always the case. And those women can sometimes be so mean, that mean girl template again. They can be so mean to girls that they call a plain Jane, girls who just don't give a fuck about what they, like what other people think about them in the world, and aren't afraid to go out without makeup or, in any kind of way. And the other women, the mean girl set, will be like, do you have no like self-respect? And they'll try to shame the girls who are just living in their organic truth, and people like that are often, they shame women like that because they don't have the power or the balls to do the same. They've created, in other words, oftentimes they've created their own prison in which they can't leave their homes without looking a certain way. And so when they see other women who are able to do that, it irks them, it upsets them. Instead of being inspired and being like, well, if she can do it, then I can too, and the world's not going to look down on me, they become the very thing that they're afraid of confronting if they were to go out into the world like that. Right? So in other words, the reason why they don't exit the house without makeup is because they don't want other people talking about them like that, but they will talk about other people like that. So they've created their own prison where they can only live a certain way. And they get upset by people who have the liberation to just live. Okay. So many of you, in these energy dynamics before, you made yourself small to make them feel better falsely, and you became a negotiator and an enabler to the false states of peace that they needed to deny their own shadows. So for as long as you were consenting to play small in order to be accepted, or in order to feel, for others to feel more comfortable, falsely comfortable in your in your presence, what you actually were doing, you were cultivating and enabling an environment of false peace. It was false peace, right? So whoever this is, the one that's now nipping at your ankles because the situation's been reversed because you've risen into your power. Now they're mad because you quit making yourself small to feed their illusions and delusions. But that's a them problem that has nothing to do with you. And I feel like this message, 1333, I feel like this message is coming through, especially for somebody or those of you who recently you might have had a situation or experience where you had to stand in your power and you knew it was the right thing to do. But because that still feels foreign to you, you still have guilt that comes up when you assert yourself in that position. You still feel bad for people who are behaving in ways where they need to be corrected or they need to correct themselves. And instead of allowing that process to happen, you've taken the fall in the past because, you know, that's what you were used to doing. And this time around, you haven't, you didn't. And so maybe you have some guilt around that because now where you would negotiate false peace in the past, things have become uncomfortable for this person, this being, this group. It could be a group also. But the message that's coming through with that also is to love them and to love yourself is to honor your own truth and power and to embody and express it. So in other words, when you're loving yourself, you are loving them. And the false matrix had us thinking that love was all manner of things, but love at its root is justice, which is why Venus rules over Libra, and Libra is a sign of justice, because justice is beauty, and beauty is justice, and justice is love, and love is justice, and they're all beauty, because justice is harmony. It's the harmonization of frequencies that allow all things to flourish. And the truth of the matter is, when you are creating states of false peace for beings, you are not allowing them to evolve into their true ability to flourish, right? You're letting them stay comfortable in their mediocrity, frequentially speaking, not speaking in the false matrix vernacular. Right? So when you give them that invitation to rise by boldly being yourself and loving yourself enough to assert your power, your boundaries, whatever it is you have to do in order to enforce and embody your presence, when you do that, you are actually loving them, even if in that act it makes them feel uncomfortable, it makes them feel less than, it makes them feel shifty. Now, how they respond to you in the aftermath of that is on them too. You're not responsible for how they respond. They might rise and they might try to sling mud. They might try to pull you back down. A lot of the time they do, you know, but that is neither here nor there. You have taken the step where you are acting in integrity and you are acting in love and you are choosing loyalty to self in order to help them to rise into that position too. You're planting the seed. You're leading by example. You're showing them how to rise into a higher timeline. You're literally opening a fucking door. Now, if they choose to slam that door in your face, that's not your problem. That's not your problem. And I often tell this story about how, like, you know, there was a person in my life who I let go a few years ago, and my guidance told me to let them go. And this person was very angry, like, why, how dare you, like, why would you want to let me go? And you know, like, that was their energy, like, what makes you think it's okay to end a relationship like this, and yada yada yada, and loyalty and all this other false matrix, you know, malarkey. And literally what my guides, I don't even know if I said this to them, but what my guides showed me at the time is they can't love me the way I deserve to be loved. It's not within their capacity to do that. And it's not within my capacity to love them the way they deserve to be loved. And love, there's no striving in love. There is the work that you have to do within yourself that inspires you to rise higher, to be worthy of higher love. But there's no real striving when you love someone. And I was done with trying to be something that I wasn't, and I was done with never being good enough, because that person had no respect for me, and they had no respect for themselves either. And the fact that they wanted to hold on to me when I was saying, this ain't working, and when I had disrespected them, I can own up to my shit. It always goes both ways. Before I knew who I was, before I was more balanced in myself, I made many mistakes. I've hurt people, and I knew there was too much water under the bridge, that they had no respect for me, and I knew that they had no respect for self, because if you want to keep on pursuing a person who pretty much is telling you they can't love you, or they've shown you in some way they can't love you, then you have no respect if you keep on pursuing that. And I don't care who they are. I really don't care what title they've held in your life. I don't care. So, the greatest gift of love I gave them was letting them go. Because I knew, beyond the fact that I knew they couldn't love me, I knew that I couldn't love them. And I also knew I didn't want to invest in loving them. I didn't. And I could be very real and honest with myself. They, to me, were not worth my time. They weren't worth my time. They weren't worth my energy. They weren't worth the investment that we possibly would have had to go through in order to make it work. And there was no guarantee. It would have been a lot of forcing. And I said, fuck that. I love you as a human. I love you as a source emanation. I love you for who you are, but I can't entertain an intimate relationship with you where I'm supposed to enact that love in that way, because that I can't pretend, it's not there. And we're not here to be intimately loving with every being. We're here to love everything for who and what it is, but there are certain beings that we are here to invest in, and there are others who we have to admit, well, not a frequential match. Let me let you go so that you can find those who can love you properly, because in spite of everything that has happened with us, even on a universal level, I want you to be loved, because it benefits me. It benefits the planet when you're loved well, because it brings all things into perfect harmony. So to love them and to love yourself is to honor your own truth and power and to embody and express it. They may be intimidated now and inspired later to rise. They may be intimidated now and inspired later to rise, because remember I said, you're planting seeds. By letting them keep you small, you are consenting to their self-rejection too. So the reason you're in their fields, challenging them to rise into a higher timeline, and that's why they're feeling that discomfort and that intimidation. You're there to help them break out of some kind of cycle of self-betrayal or self-rejection that is keeping them out of that timeline. So when you consent to keeping yourself small because it caters to their false comfort level, you are also playing into their own cycle of self-rejection as well as your own. Okay, so I have to run. I'm gonna do some cards quickly before I do go. I have a few more minutes. Let's see. Oh, also, if the sound is funny, I want to apologize. I know it's not terrible, but I know some of you are more sensitive to sound than others, and I know there's a bit of a reverb that the microphone is feeding back. And so, when I wrote about this on the community board, somebody kindly said it sounded like it was my internal settings on the computer. So I have done that work. I've troubleshooted. I think it's slightly better than the other day, but it's still not 100% there. So I don't know if I need to get a new microphone or not. I will look into it, but I apologize to those of you that are uber, my hypersonic people, those of you who are super sensitive to, sound distortion, I wouldn't call this a distortion so much as it is a little bit echoey, but if you're sensitive to that, I apologize. I am aware. I am going to try to do something to rectify it. Some people actually like it. They're like, they like the sound effect. I don't know. Everything's so subjective and so personal, right? But I am aware of the slight reverb, and I am working on it. But I also didn't want to pause. I didn't want to delay my coming on here because of it, because it's such a negligible problem unless you're super sensitive. So for my super sensitive, supersonically gifted people, I apologize. And I'm open to any what's it called, constructive guidance with, because I'm not a tech person. I'm not technologically or technically minded in these areas, so I don't know much about sound. I just kind of plug it in and go. That's how I like to do it. Okay, so I'm going to go into the tarot. I'm going into my Modern Witch tarot deck. I'm going to do a 4-card spread. Whoop. So the cards are in front of me now, 4 cards face down. I haven't seen them yet. At the bottom of the deck, we do have the Lovers. This is beautiful. The Lovers, and 5 of Pentacles is making itself known too, right beneath the Lovers. So somewhere along the line, you are graduating into what the necessary frequency, expression, self-expression that you need to embody to draw in your higher timelines, your higher truth, your divine contracts. And for some of you, this might also include, divine partnerships, whether those be romantic, platonic, in terms of what it is you're pursuing, creatively or for work. It's time to start calling those things in and to move out of indecision, lack. And as I lift this up also, if some of you apologize too fucking much. You learned as a child that you had to apologize for everything, even your existence. It's time to stop that. I know I'm guilty of that. That's the message I'm getting with the Page of Cups, the 5 of Pentacles, and the 7 of Cups right beneath the Lovers. So it's time for you to rise into the frequency that calls in your divine contracts, your higher timelines, and that's only made possible when you fully express yourself frequentially, and you allow yourself to shine and not be dimmed and not be intimidated and not be silenced, not be gagged, not be made to feel invisible or like you have to be invisible. The only way that your true, the true frequency holders, the ones that share your frequency can find you, is if you get out into the world and you be you, right? So a lot of the false matrix simulation spells, the social engineering was designed to get everyone to dampen themselves so that soul family would not be able to find one another on the earth again. But it's time. I even had an amazing experience just a few minutes after this message was coming through. Again, I was walking and made contact with my star family, and it just made me realize, like, there's a lot happening right now to purify our energy and to clear our energy, to not only access light codes, but to embody those light codes so that we can find one another again in truth, without posturing, without manipulation, without gesturing, but simply because we're being who we are. Okay? Now, let's see. In the overarching theme, we've got the 5 of Cups. This is Scorpio energy, first decan of Scorpio, 0 to 9 degrees Scorpio. In the challenge position, we do have the Magician. The Magician in the challenge position can be interesting. It can even include energetic fuckery. Okay, but we'll get into that in a minute. And what you need to be paying attention to, we have the Knight of Pentacles. Slow but steady sometimes wins the race. And in the guidance, we have the 8 of Cups. Yeah. This is a Piscean energy, the 8 of Cups. This is the first decan of Pisces. So we got first decan energy out here. We've got a court card and we've got another major arcana. So both of the minor arcana cards that are out here are first decan, which means that something, this is cardinal energy, this is something is being instigated. So with the 5 of Cups and the overarching theme and the 8 of Cups being your guidance, this is showing me right here that there is something that you have to walk away from. There possibly the 3 of Cups, it could be people, it could be a group of people, or it could literally be the emotional imprinting that has produced a behavior within you from being a part of a group or from your past relational dynamics. And that emotional imprinting, it goes against the truth of your self-expression. And it's time to really hone in on those parts of yourself where you allow yourself to be invisible. You allow yourself to be dimmed. You allow yourself to take a smaller position than you know you should. You allow yourself to be silenced. There's no more of that. And if people can't handle you at your full strength, at your full concentration, it's time for you to walk towards that which does. And sometimes walking towards that, the 2 of Cups, right? Because that's what this person is walking towards, is a 2 of Cups. Sometimes when you're walking towards that 2 of Cups, you don't see it. You're just walking in faith. You leave something or someone behind. Not because you have something set up, but just because you know that it's not right. And by faith, you know that when you sever that cord, that something better is going to open up because you're being true to yourself. And even in this 5 of Cups, that's what we're seeing. Like, this person is lamenting on the 3 of Cups and they're missing the 2 of Cups behind them. So be aware, especially in Cancer season. Cancer energy has this Cancer season. In our shadow, the medicine of Cancer can have us staying in places and with people that we don't actually belong with anymore. But the medicine of Cancer can also liberate you out of those scenarios and situations very powerfully, for as long as you're being true and real with yourself, right? But like I said, in its shadow, we can be, the Cancerian energy can really like to hold on to potential, doesn't like to let things be what they are, doesn't like to see the worst in people, yada, yada, yada. I say this as a Venus in Cancer too, you know, really likes to see things through to the end, etc., etc. But sometimes you have to draw a line in the sand and you have to bring an ending forward yourself. Okay, so in the challenge position with the Magician, 2 messages coming through. I got to get through this a little bit quickly now, guys. The Magician in the challenge position can always be fuckery, energetic fuckery. We know fuckery abounds. It is what it is. The most important way to shift the fuckery without is to shift the thing within that allows for it to perpetuate in your fields. And so the Magician in the challenge position is also speaking about where you're not rising up into your power. Where you're not rising up into your power because of oftentimes group dynamics, intimidation by others, as well as if it's no longer people who are directly in your energy field, the imprinting that is left behind from past relational dynamics where you were perpetually called to dim or to lower yourself. Because for some of you, like, to go back to the message, like these beings are nipping at your ankles, like you might be aware of that cognitively, but you still have to work through the emotional densities that have you fully accept that as your truth, to the point where you're living in that place of knowing who you are, if that makes sense. So in the what you need to be paying attention to, the Knight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles speaks of taking action, but taking action that feels grounded in substance. And that being grounded in substance, again, is a very subjective, personal thing. So it can mean like slowing down to see things as they are. It can mean like pausing, you know, taking a pause while still moving forward, because it's night energy, so it is about taking action. But it's also about allowing things to settle, allowing things to become grounded. And for many of you, like the message I'm getting with this Knight of Pentacles is you might have a tendency to connect with your power, to know it on a cognitive level, but the minute that something from the past, like that is connected to this energy, that forms an emotional tether, that causes you to think of yourself in the way that you were, the minute that kind of enters your field, you're easily pulled in that direction before you rise into your power, before you root yourself into the truth of your power. And that's because that old persona feels more familiar, but it's almost like it's time for you to get really rooted and grounded in taking methodical, purposeful, intentional steps in establishing your truth. Instead of like kind of that fly by night energy that comes through, like that inspiration energy that might come through where you know what your power is, but then you don't ground it. You don't ground it, so you might feel really powerful, or you might feel really on top of the world for a day, for two, for a few weeks. But when this kind of energy comes in, it can sweep you away, this energy from your past, whether it's coming through people from your past, whether it's coming through other people, whether it's coming through scenarios and situations. There's something here where you're being called to be rooted and grounded in your power. So it's not like something that you experience I can see it. Now I need to articulate it. Like you experience it coming in very powerfully, but it doesn't hold enough for you to embody it. It's time for you to embody your magic, to rise into it. And the only way you can do that is by living it, walking it, expressing it, instead of holding yourself back. Okay? So I think that's it. I'm gonna wrap up because I do have an appointment in a few minutes. Okay, well, I thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope that this reading and the downloads were inspiring, helpful, vibrationally shifted you higher into your truth and your power. For all information on how to work with me, I will put the information in the description box and in the pinned comment in the comment section below. Some of you were reaching out to me and alerted me to the fact that my soul recovery sessions had sold out. I have restocked the shop, so 60-minute, 90-minute soul recovery sessions have been restocked. For those of you who would like to access my decrees, they're all there at the Ko-Fi shop. Those, of course, are for free or by Inspire donation. Thank you to those of you who do donate. It makes a huge difference. As I've said before, the reason I keep these things free is because I realize that so many of us, so many of you have faced dire financial binds because of this fuckery. So I thank those of you who do give back to my work, because it allows me to keep on doing what I do in my work of liberation. Okay, if you would like to treat me to coffee or tip me and all of that stuff, I'll put the links to that below, and I thank you in advance for your generosity. If you would like to get a tarot astrology reading, I do those also, but those are directly booked with me via email. So you can email me, solarahspeaks@proton.me. I do right now audio and one-to-one video tarot astrology consultations. What else? If you'd like to have access to me on a daily basis, my work on a daily basis, I should say, then you can find me over on my platform, solarah.xyz. This is where I release on the daily, my daily alchemy, which is the free guidance I write up for the collective every single day. But there are also tiered memberships that are paying, that give you access to different things. Okay, so for those of you who are my Jade members, quick reminder, our June meetup is tomorrow, Sunday, June 29th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I look forward to seeing some of you there. And what else? I think that's it. I just want to thank you. Thank you for all your love. Thank you for your support. Thank you for doing the deep soul regenerative work that allows for your inner harmonious settings to return, and also for true harmony to reign again on the earth. Thank you. What you're doing is not only for yourself, it's for all of humankind, and for the animals and the plants and the rocks. It's for all of us. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please make sure to like if you're still here and you've enjoyed the content. Please make sure to share my messages with those who you feel my words and my information will uplift them and break them out of false matrix prisons. And what else? Make sure to hit the notification bell, because I post like intuitively. So if you want to know when I post a new message, the best thing to do is hit the notification bell. And some of you got back to me and said you've got your notifications on, but when I post it doesn't come through, and I apologize for that. There's nothing I can really do on my end, but I thank you for alerting me to that, because, well, it just shows me what's going on behind the scenes. But I wish you guys a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you again soon. And until then, be well.